The night opened like a painting, skyscrapers glowing against a velvet sky, car headlights streaking like fireflies along the busy avenues. Somewhere inside that glittering city sat Daniel Cooper, a man who had everything, except the one thing he never admitted he wanted. Daniel wasn't just a successful man. He was the kind of CEO headlines loved, sharp, decisive, brilliant, but also known for his coldness. At 37, he was a single father raising his 7-year-old daughter, Lily, after his wife passed away 5 years earlier. His life revolved around two things: his company and his child. Love, that was a closed chapter. He told himself he didn't have time for it, didn't need it. His boardroom was his battlefield, his office his home. Yet that night, Daniel sat across from his best friend, Michael, at a private lounge. Michael laughed as he poured another glass of wine. "Daniel, you've built empires, but you've forgotten how to live. You need someone to share life with," Daniel scoffed. "I don't have time for blind dates. And honestly, Michael, women see the CEO, the money. They don't see me." But Michael leaned in with a grin. "Not this one. Trust me, she's different. Just give it one evening." Reluctantly, Daniel agreed. He wasn't expecting anything. For him, this was a chore, a way to silence his friend's endless pushing. A blind date was a gamble, and Daniel didn't gamble. The restaurant chosen for the date was elegant yet intimate, golden chandeliers casting warm light on polished tables. Daniel arrived early, crisp in his tailored black suit, Rolex glinting. Under the lights, he looked like a man perfectly in control. Inside, though, he was already rehearsing polite small talk and mentally preparing his exit strategy. But when the door opened and she walked in, the air shifted. Emily. She wasn't dressed in glittering diamonds or designer gowns like the women he often met. She wore a modest navy dress, her hair falling softly around her face. No expensive perfume, no practiced entrance, just quiet grace. She hesitated at the door, looking around nervously, until their eyes met. Daniel froze. Something in her presence stopped the storm inside him. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was simply herself. As she approached the table, Emily smiled. A smile that wasn't rehearsed, wasn't for show. It was warm, almost shy. And in that moment, Daniel realized this was going to be different. "Hi, you must be Daniel," she said gently. He stood, suddenly unsure of himself, and shook her hand. For the first time in years, his carefully built walls felt like glass, fragile and thin. He couldn't explain it. Something about her, the way her eyes didn't linger on his watch, the way she sat down with nervous honesty, made him feel seen, and that was how the night began. A blind date Daniel never wanted, but one that fate had carefully written into his life. The first few minutes were polite, almost awkward. Daniel asked where she was from. Emily spoke softly about her small apartment, her younger brother she cared for, and the 2 jobs she worked to keep life steady. Daniel listened, and that was new. Normally, conversations circled back to his company, his success, or the money he controlled. But Emily wasn't impressed by any of it. She didn't ask about his wealth, his business, or his power. Instead, she asked about Lily. "Tell me about your daughter," Emily said, her eyes bright with curiosity. Daniel blinked. No woman had ever asked him that on a first meeting. Usually they were eager to know about his fortune or connections, but Emily wanted to know about Lily, the little girl who was his entire world. As he described Lily's love for drawing, her stubbornness when she wanted ice cream before dinner, and the way she always left stuffed animals on his office chair, something softened in Daniel's voice. And Emily listened like every detail mattered. He found himself laughing, actually laughing over coffee. Her stories weren't glamorous. She talked about her clumsy attempts at cooking, the late nights she spent helping her brother with homework, the exhaustion that sometimes overwhelmed her. Yet there was no bitterness in her tone. Instead, there was resilience, strength. At one point, she admitted, "I almost didn't come tonight. I thought, why would someone like him want to meet?" "Someone like me?" Daniel felt a strange ache in his chest. He looked at her, not at the modest dress or the lack of glittering jewels, but at her courage. "Emily," he said slowly, "you have no idea how rare it is to sit across from someone so real. For a man who measured everything in numbers and profit, this was a first. He wasn't calculating, wasn't analyzing. He was just present." By dessert, Daniel had forgotten the exit strategy he had planned. He didn't want the night to end. He wanted more of her laughter, more of her quiet honesty. As Emily left, she smiled shyly and said, "Thank you, Daniel, for listening." And when she walked out into the night, Daniel felt something he hadn't in years. Hope. Days turned into weeks, and Daniel found excuses to see Emily again. Sometimes it was coffee on her lunch break. Sometimes it was a simple walk in the park. And then came the moment he introduced her to Lily. At first, he worried. Lily had always been protective, hesitant to warm up to strangers. But the moment Emily knelt down, looked her in the eyes, and asked, "Will you show me your favorite drawing?" Lily smiled. Just like that, the bond began. Daniel stood back, watching the two of them sit on the living room floor, coloring books spread out, crayons rolling across the carpet. Lily laughed more that night than she had in months. For Daniel, it was everything. Emily wasn't trying to fill a role, wasn't trying to be perfect. She was simply kind, present, and full of love. That was enough, more than enough. As weeks passed, Daniel realized he no longer thought of her as the girl from the blind date. She was Emily, the woman who reminded him to eat when he worked late, the woman who never cared about his suits or cars, but cared deeply when he looked tired, the woman who held his daughter as though she had always been part of their family. One evening, standing with Emily beneath the city lights, Daniel finally let the words out. His voice was softer than the man who once ruled boardrooms. "Emily, you've given me something no business deal ever could. You've given me back my heart." Her eyes filled with tears. She squeezed his hand. "And you've shown me that even when life is hard, love can still find us." In that moment, Daniel knew. This wasn't chance. This was destiny. A blind date had led him to the woman who would change everything. And so, the CEO who thought love was behind him discovered the truth. Sometimes, love doesn't arrive with fireworks or luxury. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the form of a poor girl with a kind smile, and stays forever. If you believe in love that finds you when you least expect it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more heart-touching stories.